drink was poured a long time ago.
This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
I forgot to do the clap thing. There we go. That'll make my job easier later. But welcome to the show. This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Coming at you from two places today. Coming at you from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, and West Bend, Wisconsin. And Greg is down for the count. He's ill.
Not feeling well at all, he said.
Yeah, he was going to make it, and then he just must have declined quick and was like, I'll decline since I've declined.
Well, poor guy said his voice was going in and out. I'm sure he didn't want to come in here and snap, crackle, and pop his way to a painful night.
Snap, crackle, and pop. Old Rice Krispies treat commercial reference. Very nice. Oh, boy. Well, speaking of hearkening back to things, like, well, I don't know. I don't. When did Rice Krispies treats even come around? I'd have to Google that one. Big announcement today, though, on the live podcast. We are happy to announce a new partnership with Bear. So, Derek, you cheered before I even got it, the words off my lips. Woo!
I'm just excited, man.
Well, it's funny because, like, I'm genuinely excited about it. I wouldn't want to partner with another brand. And in fact, I turned down some others and really had worked for getting this one kind of lined up. And, you know, Fred Bear is quoted in his vision was around make archery affordable to everyone. And to quote Fred Bear himself, one of my favorite quotes that I think I even put on your drawing in here on that video that went out a while back is go afield with a good attitude, with respect for the wildlife you hunt, for the forest and the fields in which you walk. Immerse yourself in the outdoor experience. It will cleanse your soul and make you a better person. So I couldn't think of a better company to partner with that aligns better with our mission and our values and our ethos. Certainly us Okayest bunch. Money does not grow on trees for the everyday hunter. I don't think there's anything wrong with a Matthews or a Hoyt. I'm not here to knock other brands, but my pockets aren't that deep. And you know, the Bear Archery mission really strikes a chord with us over here at Okayest Hunter. So we're happy to partner with them. In this partnership, we'll be giving away bows throughout the year. They've partnered with us in the past at Foam Fest for the last 2 years. We gave away bows at Foam Fest 2 each year, I think. So 4 total so far. Your daughter was one of the winners of the pink one.
There's a beautiful pink bear bow hanging up 6 feet to my right that my daughter still talks about, you know, at least every couple of days about her sweet bow. And I just want to say congrats to you, Eric, because I know you've been wanting to partner with them. You've, you know, been a big fan of what they stand for. And I know that this is a pretty meaningful merger, and you just do such a great job making sure that every business move you make aligns with what you believe and like what you stand for. And I just want to say congrats, man. You got a meaningful, awesome partnership here. So good for you, dude.
Well, thank you, man. It's exciting. And, you know, my kids shoot a bear. They got the youth bows on lock. You know, I think it's the ambidextrous one where you can shoot left or right-handed. I wanted to start there to see which kid was which, so I didn't have to waste money. Super affordable and super economical and fun to shoot. And the kids have a blast shooting that thing. And I'm happy to be shooting them. So come, I don't know, in the near future here, we'll be breaking down our build out to these bows. Greg and I are both going to be shooting bear, Tyler as well. I've been shooting bear. I shot a Dart and Viper initially, which is what my dad gave me. And the first bow I ever bought was a bear bow. And because my dad bought a bear when he upgraded from his Darton, that's what he bought. And so maybe that's where it all started for me, is like, that's maybe what my dad shot. But then I did some homework and dug deeper on their brand, and I love it, the mission and all that jazz. So throughout the year, we'll bring those folks onto the show to talk shop about these bows and the different ones that they have for different reasons and what might work well for you. Greg and I will be doing some bear shaft tuning, knock tuning, paper tuning, all of the tuning as we build these things out. We'll share that journey. We'll probably be visiting our local archery shop, Whale Tails, to go through some more of that stuff. But yeah, it's exciting. And stay tuned for giveaways. We're gonna they've been very gracious and kind with or liberal with giving us bows to give to you guys, our audience. So we'll find some fun ways to collab on getting bows into the listeners' hands. Um, I don't
That
have any details on that at all yet, other than might have something to do with the call-in line. So we'll just leave it at that for now. We'll see. We'll see.
That's interesting that you kind of started your archery area with, I think there's a lot of people who started with a bear bow, but that was my first like adult bow that I bought was a bear. I started with like a kid's bow, it was called a Browning Micro Midas that I shot from when I was like 8 to I don't know 14 or 15 years old. And then I had my eye on this bear. It was called what was it called? An Epic Extreme. And my dad helped me out. We went to the archery shop. We got the Bear Epic Extreme, and man, I shot that bow for a number of years. Absolutely loved it. I've got a Bear Grizzly recurve on my wall right there. Now my daughter's got the cool bear bow that she won from Foam Fest last year.
She won the legit, right? That's the one she has.
Yeah, yeah. It's unbelievable. Like at first, I thought like, oh, this is like, it's pink. It's ladies / youth bow. I was like, oh, this thing's gonna be pretty adjustable. It goes from like 10 to 70 pounds, which is just unreal. Like anybody can shoot that thing.
And it's a ready to hunt package. They come with the whisker biscuit and the triple pin trophy ridge sight on there, and they're good to go. Joel, my buddy, won one at Foam Fest 2 years ago, and then proceeded to shoot it on the course with us at Horican Marsh, right there the same day, and got it all dialed in and didn't lose a single arrow on the whole course. There she is. There's the winner right there.
Yeah, there she was. She must have heard me talking about her bow.
Don't touch my bow. She probably did. She's probably like, that me?
She heard me say anybody could shoot it. She thought I was doing some target practice.
But so that's a fun, exciting announcement. We announced last week we're working with Rack Hub. We're going to be doing a contest giveaway type thing with shed season and Rack Hub soon. So we're working on the details of all that actively here behind the scenes. But one of the cool things, if you find a single shed antler, or if you do find a match set, Rack Hub has some really cool ways for you to display those antlers where you might not otherwise. You might just lay it on a table or something like that. So now you can mount them on the wall, get them on a really cool pedestal kind of display on a table. Good furnishings to keep your house decorated with memories and stories to tell folks as they come over. And usually those things are wife approved. No fur eyeball skulls or any of that jazz with the Rack Hub stuff. So pretty cool and surprisingly affordable. And you can use code OHP at checkout to save yourself some money. So those are the announcement things. Business as usual. We're brought to you by Half Rack, presented by. So all of your hunting accessories from, is it called a gimbal? Am I saying that right? I feel like I always say that incorrectly.
A gambrel.
See, I do. I did say a gambrel. I need to look up the actual definition of gambrel and understand, like, what does that mean?
But I'm glad you brought that up. The other day, we were fussing around in the garage, and I was trying to organize and clean a little bit. Well, I mean, we did the whole dang house and reorganized the kids' rooms, and that process. Go through everything and like, what are we keeping? What are we getting rid of? Let's go, get rid of it. And we did the house, and after a while, I couldn't handle it anymore. So I went out in the garage, and I started organizing there. And my father-in-law, I don't remember if I told you this, but he bought me it's like a Pittsburgh, so it's from like Harbor Freight, but it's a remote controlled like hoist, like a winch, So I got that mounted up in the garage, and I was playing with that, and I hooked up the gambrel, and I was like, oh baby, this is gonna make next season real nice.
Hell yeah, right? Because you've been using the playground in the backyard, right?
Oh gosh, it's been a shit show. It's been bad, man. I send you guys videos and pictures when I do it because it's just such a bad setup.
It's pretty hysterical. My wife's like, "Don't you ever do that?" I'm like, well, I mean, why not? I think that's actually a really good idea. That's great inspiration. I think I will do it. She says I have oppositional defiant disorder, and just
really? Don't do it.
Anything she says don't do, I do. I'm like, well, but I was gonna do it that way. I told you about it, and now you just think that I'm defying you, but I was still gonna do it. Now you happen to tell me not to, and now it looks like I'm defying you. So maybe you're defying me is what's happening. Let's get real. Wife. Just kidding. I love my wife. Anywho, Latitude Outdoors, I can't say enough good things about those guys. From like a business standpoint, the quality of their products, manufacturing in Michigan, good down to earth dudes, putting out amazing hunting content, acting as though they're a media company. They've surpassed a number of actual influencers and medias from a brand standpoint. They're just playing all their cards in a really um, favorable way. And their products, their innovation, how they go to market, and how they support that, it's unbelievable. Just an overall great company, one that I'm really happy that we're partnered with. And clearly, we use all their stuff all season long. We'll talk more about that as we get further into the year, and we'll have those guys on the show to break some more stuff down as well. And likely they'll be passing through Wisconsin at some point. We'll bring them in studio and stuff. But and then Spartan Forge, talk about innovative. Those guys continue to change the game of what is mobile mapping in terms of an application. They are bringing things to market that have literally never been seen before. And there's probably a play on words because you can literally see things on their app with the high quality maps that they put out there in contrast to the others on the market, that you can see things that you can't see on other apps. So kudos to those guys. Use code OHP. You're getting 20% off on Spartan Forge's annual membership. I think it's 10% to 15% across the others that we're working with. I don't actually know, but if you want to buy stuff, you want to save money, plop in that discount code and, roll the dice, see what you get. I don't know. Enjoy. You're welcome. Hopefully it helps.
It's going to be something.
Someone was mentioning the other day, like, hey, is Onyx more expensive than Spartan Forge? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe. I'm not really sure. But go check it out. And so Spartan Forge, I think they had raised their prices not too long ago, and I think it was like 50-ish bucks for the year or something like that. And I was like, well, plop in the 20% discount code and you'll save. And I think it ended up being like $12 a year or something. So,
And I think they're different in how they're set up too. Like I think through Onyx you can buy like individual states, and then if you want all of them, obviously it's a higher price point.
Yeah,
Where Spartan Forge, I think it's a one-time, you get it all. Like here's the application, go nuts, which is pretty damn nice, especially if you're an out-of-state hunter. You're going to do some traveling, or even
you have to buy more states and continue to see your subscription rise and rise and rise.
Yeah. And then it becomes one of those background things you don't think about, but it's recurring every year, and you're like, where in the hell is this money going?
Yeah, why is that so much? Right? You got to go into your app and see what you're subscribed to and be like, holy shit, what's going on here? Anywho, so Oak Tree Dreams is asking who's ready for turkey season. Laugh out loud. Warmest birthday I've ever had, and it's normally -30. Laugh my ass off. Heard gobbling too. Good to go.
Drew, heard gobbling already? Holy crap!
Early, man.
These birds are fired up with this warm weather.
Hey, we got a caller, Derek. You want to take one right away?
What the hell? Let's do it.
All right, we got Noah. You're live on the show. Noah, how you been, buddy? What's new?
Oh, pretty good. It's been a while since I've been able to call in. I actually have I started a winter bow hunting league on Tuesday nights now.
That's awesome, man. Where are you going for that?
Blackhawk Bow Hunters. It's over in Verona.
Awesome. How you doing? You shooting good?
Shooting okay.
That's what we like to hear.
That's our standard right there.
Yep. Only okay.
Yeah, right? Funny you guys talking about bows and not having the tubs on.
That was the goal, is to have tubs on. We didn't have a better topic, so we thought we'd stay in our lane and see how far Derek and I can take it. But yeah, Greg is the master tinker of tinkering with bows. I mean, that guy. I want to get him a bow press for his birthday or something, because I think he would make good use of it.
Yeah, Greg and I were just. Sorry. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, I was talking with them a couple months back, because I'm actually in the process of getting a new bow. We were nerding out with some arrows, talking arrows too. So.
Did you get some?
What kind of bow did you get, and what arrows are you getting?
Yeah. So I bought a lightly used Hoyt RX-7. Transferring over, I'm currently shooting the rebranded Bear. It's Cabela's branded.
Interesting. Okay.
It's been a good bow. Like I heard you guys' partnership here. Congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you. It's exciting.
But going with this new Hoyt, it's the Carbon, which I've heard nothing about. It's light as light as hell and quiet. And then the arrows I'm going with, following Greg's lead and going with the grizzly sticks, doing the heavyweight, high FOC, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, it's
Cool,
a process
man.
to get that stuff dialed in. I'm following Greg's lead there as well, going with grizzly stick. Ever since Method dissolved, it was a sad day, but we got in touch with the folks over at Grizzly Stick, and they continue to steer us in a nice direction. And with Greg's guidance, of course, I can follow that direction appropriately. So it takes effort.
Yeah, actually, because of that, I actually got into fletching as recently too. So diving into that.
It's fun to
Awesome.
do.
Yeah, put on my own arrows and all that.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of pride when you're going through it, and when you actually kill someone with the stuff you built and set up. It's like the high FOC stuff, and without going too extreme with it, I think it does have its place as long as you're not trying to take super long shots. The further those arrows get out, they drop fast. You know, they'll just boom. They just like it'll look like it just
yeah, for sure.
you don't even see the arc happen. It just looks like it like literally teleported to a lower path towards the ground. But you can punch through animals with them. That's for damn sure.
The high FOC stuff is really, it's got its place too. I mean, if you're a tree stand hunter who's hunting 4 sticks, 5 sticks high, I think that's probably not the ideal place to be using real heavy arrows. Just because of what Eric just mentioned, you got the drop, like your archer's paradox, you're always going to get the drop. And like when you're already elevated, that just slims your margin of error down so much. But like if you're watching the hunting public guys and whatnot, anytime you set up on the ground or if you're low in a tree stand, you can take frontal shots or quartering 2 shots with a real heavy FOC and a real heavy arrow, fixed blade. You can take shots that you couldn't normally take and be really lethal. I think Greg shot one, 2 or 3 years ago, Eric? He went through the front of that doe and it exited out the hind end of her and like was sticking in the dirt. I mean, that arrow went lengthwise through the deer, did catastrophic damage from like very low, height in the tree. And it was just unbelievable.
It was a smelly gut job, but
It was wild.
Full through. It was like full pass through the long way. And it wasn't intended to be. He didn't take that shot just because of that reason either. It was like the doe had turned ready to crouch, ready to turn. He turned
right?
Yeah. Which that's a plan B scenario that is talked about. But I wouldn't say we're storing all the ranch fairy pixie dust, but I think you could probably lick a little bit of that and have some luck, with your setup. Just taste it.
I mean, it's that exact reason why I'm kind of going for it. Like, you can believe the research or not, whether or not it's actually going to 100% pen to a shoulder blade. But for me, it's like, yes, I'm always going for that, just behind the shoulder, straight double lung, or maybe nick the heart. But it's that, the deer took a step at the wrong time, or the deer didn't take a step at the right time. And, a million things can go wrong when you have a million different variables in your shot.
Yeah, a million dynamic variables. So like once that arrow leaves the string, shit starts to go wrong or goes right. I mean, it really depends. It's just shit happens, and it's once it leaves the string, it's out of your control. You can only control so many things, and you practice enough. You do archery league, you do 3D, killing some foam in summer, and you get comfortable, confident with your setup, and hopefully you can put a good shot on some in season, and it all comes together.
Yeah, it's not like a bullet, a 308, hit that most places in the deer and it'll go down,
Yeah.
And the dynamic part too is everybody is different. Like Eric and Greg's draw length are probably inches over what mine is. So me having a shorter draw length, if I'm shooting a light arrow and I hit the shoulder blade with so much less, you know what I mean? Like less draw length, there's less force pushing on that arrow through time. Everybody's got their own situation. You really got to take that into account too when you guys are, doing your setups and figuring out what you're going to be shooting, what weight you're going to be shooting, what draw weight you're going to shoot. All that stuff makes a big difference.
Oh, for me too, it was really funny. I have I think like a 30 and a half draw length, somewhere in that ballpark. And when I was ordering the grizzly sticks, I had them not cut it because that's my full arrow. And they emailed me and they're like, "Hey, you sure? Like, what are you doing here?"
Like I also
I'm
go
like,
by the
"Yeah, my
alias
arrows
of
right now are."
I also go by the alias of Sasquatch.
Orangutan arms. That's like me pulling back to here.
No, are we going to see you at the Open Season Sportsman's Expo in the Dells this year?
Yes, I'm planning on it. Might have to work around a little bit around work, but I will be there.
All right, man. We'll come suck down a couple bush lattes with us on the house.
Oh, of course.
Thanks for calling in, buddy. Good to hear from you.
Yep, no problem.
Have a good one, Noah.
So other things, so we're getting these bows from Bear, Bare, and I've been shooting an HHA single sight pin. Forget the name of this one. It's not the optimizer. What is it called? Oh boy, this is why I need Greg on these podcasts because he knows my setup really well, and I'm just
The optimizer is kind of like the more simple single pin, right? It's got like the simple lever adjustment. It's like a bar that goes across.
Yeah, and then the one I'm shooting, it's a little bit more dynamic where it's got just a wheel you turn on the fly.
Is it the Tetra?
No, isn't it? That's what it is. Let's see. Oh no, yeah, it's not the optimizer. That one's pretty basic. It is the Tetra. You're right. It's got like a dial. Which I went from a 3-pin to the single pin, and at first it felt a little awkward at first, and now I've just gotten really used to it. And I really enjoy that. I found, at least in the Deerwoods, in the stand, much like I can't remember anything, I would I'll hit record on the podcast and I can't get words to come out of my mouth correctly. I'll talk about a sight pin that I see the brand name of every day and I can't remember what it is, or in the tree stand I'll draw back and I'm like, shit, which of the 3 pins is the one I'm supposed to be using? And then I panic. And then I start insert second guessing, then choose wrong pin, then let arrow fly over back. Like, not great. And common sense should prevail. Like, you should know that, if you want to aim down, you pick the top. You want to aim high, you pick the low, whatever. That's not how it works in my brain. So having one sight pin simplifies that for me, but then I have to remember to put it on the right yardage, which I've become overly religious about. Like, I'm fanatical about making sure that I'm using my rangefinder to range find objects, and then I know exactly, like both bucks I killed, I changed, which is a problem actually. I actually don't recommend that for in the field, because having to change range because you can't be drawn back to do that. You got to do it and then pick your bow up. So like bucks are moving. It's a tricky call depending if they're closing in on you. So you got to kind of pick your spot and hope that they land in that range, and then you're kind of like, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. We're talking about building up bows. Maybe this is one of the pieces of topic of discussion here.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that's nice about, like, the horizontal fixed 3-pin sight is if you got like a 20, a 30, and a 40, and they have their gap, the top 2 are a little closer, and you've got a buck coming in 20 yards, you draw back, and all of a sudden he starts tailing off, further away, and you can kind of aim between your 2 pins because that second one is 30, whereas when you have a single pin, you're set to that yardage. You're kind of married to it. And unless it pays to practice though. Like, I try to practice to see where mine hits if I'm aiming at like a 3D target. If I hold my pin at the top of the back at 35 and it's sighted in like my 20-yard pin, where do I hit? You know what I mean? Like, so it kind of pays to, like, that's the whole Fred Bear mantra, is like, he was watching the flight of the arrow so many times on the traditional bow. He just knew how that arrow flew. And like a lot of the instinctive guys would talk about throwing a baseball. Like, when you throw a baseball to someone, you don't think about how much force it's going to take to get it to their glove. You just do it because you've seen the flight of the ball so many times that you just do it. Like, you don't think about it. And the same is with a bow. That's why, like, the more you practice, the better you get. The more you see the arc of the arrow and you understand where your arrow hits at a 5-yard increments going out, the better off you are. So, like, yeah, do I do it religiously and perfectly? No, but like, I see the value in it, and like the more you shoot and the more you know those pins and where you hit at those ranges, the better it's going to be for you.
That's a good analogy, man. I think there's a term, shocker, it's going to talk about philosophy, but there's a term in philosophy called and I forget which philosopher talked about it. May have been Kant or Descartes or I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head, of course. But it's called eudaimonia. And I don't know if you've ever heard this term, eudaimonia, or not.
I haven't.
Essentially, it talks about doing something so often, like if you're a carpenter and you're woodworking, you basically, if you consider the modern version of it, it'd be like the 10,000 hour rule that Malcolm Gladwell talks about in whatever his book is called, 10,000 hours or some shit. But essentially, you do something so much that it becomes it almost becomes like breathing. And not just that you become to memorize the activity, it's that you get to be the best at it. And it's like an extension of you. So eudaimonia is reaching or achieving this perfect, not perfect, but like this sense of being where you're doing this activity and you're doing it at such a high level because you've done it so much. I would imagine someone like Fred Bear, or I don't know, maybe a modern day Jared Scheffler is shooting a longbow in such a way that like it's an extension of themselves, and they've reached eudaimonia with it, and they're so good that it's second nature, like breathing. Maybe that's a place to get in any archer's mind, is to achieve that level of confidence. I mean, I think Bear, I forget the guy that they're actually partnering with, but I see a lot of their content. They got some recurve, is it a recurve or longbow? I'm not sure. But this guy doing all these trick shots, and he's picking things out of the air like I wouldn't even be able to see, let alone shoot. It's like, let me just put the arrow through this ring that I chucked up into the sky. Like, are you freaking crazy? I wouldn't find that in the grass. My wife would kill me.
There was a guy named Byron Ferguson. He's still around, but I mean he's up there in age now. But he used to be on the Sportsman Channel and all that stuff. And I don't remember the name of the show, but he was an instinctive archer who I think shot longbow, and he did all those aspirin out of the air at 20 yards. Someone would throw it. He would do like the ricochet shots. They'd like hang a piece of metal on the hay bale, and like once you know the flight of the arrow, like it's what you just mentioned. It just becomes second nature. You don't even think about it. It's just instinctual, which is where the name comes from, instinctive shooting.
And I'd add to achieve that level is such a good feeling. Like, and that level of anything, this is especially in archery. Like, if you have that level, it just has to feel so good to be that good at something. It's very rare that we as humans achieve greatness at that level. I feel like there's a certain job I did for half or close to a decade, and I got so good at it that when I left it to go learn something new, I was like, oh no, I suck again. Like, I miss feeling whole by being so good at something. Like, I don't know, maybe you can compare it to the modern day Call of Duty warfare. I don't even know if it's a game that people play anymore, but like you'd get to like 100 and you'd be the best in your class you'd have all the abilities to use all the stuff, and then you'd prestige, and then you'd have to start over again. But you prestige 100 freaking times, and suddenly you're a force to be reckoned with in the Call of Duty warfare world. I don't know how you prestige as a bow hunter. I think going back to trad bows would definitely be one of those ways to prestige. Like, oh no, I'm still doing archery, but now I'm back to ground zero, learning something instinctively rather than by picking a sight pin. So, kind of going on a rabbit hole here, as Greg would call it. But
no, but that's. I mean, there's different tiers for different people, right? Like the trad bow stuff is for the people who want to invest the copious amounts of time it is to learn that art and to know it. And then if you don't have that much time to invest, like you have the compound bow, and like you just mentioned, range finding, the sight, the pins, the movable pins. These are all ways to just like help us zone in and like be more accurate without necessarily understanding everything about the flight of our arrow. And then you got like the crossbow, right, with a sight. And like where it hits, and like a lot of the sights are calibrated to how many feet per second, and like it's just a progression all the way up to like rifle, a scoped rifle. It's usually pretty good out to like almost 200 yards. There's just different steps on the ladder for where people are and what makes you feel comfortable. And I guess at the end of the day, you got to look at yourself and think about what you want from it and how much time you can dedicate to it, and then put your best foot forward, which is what we've been talking about, like getting new bows and like bare shaft tuning. Like, how far do you want to go to make sure that you're to the best of your ability?
Well, in the military, they have you go through scenarios like a gas chamber, for example. And yeah, it sucks to go in a gas chamber. However, it's not for peer punishment per se. It's to experience what it's like to be in that scenario, to breathe that shit in. but B, it's to become trustworthy of your equipment. And once you know that you can take a mask off and put a mask on and clear it appropriately, that you can trust that that equipment's gonna work for you. And so it's building up your confidence in your equipment and coming to rely on it. And if you're shooting a bow, practicing is important, not only to get repetition in because there's muscle memory in that and so forth, but also to gain that confidence and comfortability with the weapon that you've chosen. And it's important that you're comfortable with it. So like Noah just said he got a new Hoyt carbon bow and he's switching from the Cabela's Bear version of that. I'm switching from one. I've switched from one Bear bow to another, and now I'm going to try another. I'm going to keep my existing one, my incumbent bow, on hand in case I'm not comfortable with the new one, and I'm going to pick whichever one is comfortable for me because comfort to me breeds confidence. And if I feel uncomfortable with it, if the grip isn't right, or if I feel like the let off isn't where I want it to be, or it feels a little too rigid for my liking, I'll go back to what's comfortable because it's very important to feel comfortable and confident with your equipment. So you don't need to marry yourself to a bow because you want to have a Hoyt or a Matthews or a Prime or a Bear. Pick the bow that's good for you. And to be quite frank, clearly we have a partnership, but there's a reason Derek doesn't have a Bear bow. It's because he shoots what he wants to freaking shoot. And no one's going to cram anything down anyone's throat here at Okayest Hunter. Shoot what you want to shoot because it's comfortable. It's kind of like trucks. Like all trucks at a certain caliber nowadays, they're all pretty damn good. I think you go back to like 1980 and like, oh boy, you might regret the choice you make with a certain truck because the engines weren't there, the trannies weren't there. Like the trucks now, they're all pretty damn good. And I go pick the one that's comfortable for you. Like you're like the position of the seat and the way the steering wheel feels and where the armrests are. Pick the bow that's good for you. Like don't marry yourself to something because your identity is attached to a certain brand. I might argue my own against myself. I am a little bit attached to the Bear brand because I like their mission, but they have enough bows in their repertoire that I think I would find one that works for me. And that being said, they are not letting us have any of their fancy flagship bows because that does not align with our mission ethos to the Okayest Hunter. So we're only getting like the mid-grade ones and the beginner ones. Just throwing that out there. And I think it's important to call that out. Like
that is absolutely true. I'm glad you mentioned that. Otherwise, I was going to have to say it out there. Well, you guys didn't get the top of the top. Like you guys are right there where the working folk and like the general hunting, like the general hunting public, that's where they're living.
Yeah. And the one I have from last year is also not the most expensive one in their product lineup. And I did that because I shot them all and I was like, I didn't like the most expensive one. It was too much bow for me. Like it just was. I didn't need that much bow. It was like I'm not a tournament archer. I'm a bow hunter. Like you won't see me killing foam at least until my kids are older. I'm not going to be part of like an archery league. Maybe when my kids get older, I can bring them and I can do all that with more time on my hands. But for now, I kill foam a couple times a year. I shoot my bow as much as I can in my backyard, in my basement. Beyond that, it's a hunting bow, not a archery or 3D bow. And some guys got both. Like some guys do have a bow just for one set of one for the other, which probably is smart if you have the money to afford multiple bows.
The confidence factor that you mentioned, though, like look at it, just our group of guys, the Okayest Hunter guys here, and the Okayest Fisher. Talking about Matt, you look at like who's the dead eye of the group. It's Matt. Like typically, Matt is out shooting everybody. He's got the oldest bow out of all of us. Like, and he's just comfortable.
That bow, yeah. When I wouldn't want to switch bows, I'd be like, you know what? This one works pretty damn good. Try not to.
I don't know if I want to get rid of this one quite yet. It's got some kills left in it. Like it's all about that comfortability. And nowadays, kind of like the truck comment you made, but like most major bow companies are producing a damn fine bow. Like it's hard to go wrong. Like depending on what you want. Yeah, the upper echelon has got some bells and whistles, and they're a little more fancy. But compared to 20 years ago, like what you're getting across the board is a lot better, more efficient, energy efficient. So I don't see a ton of debate in like bow brands. Like everybody's got their little loyalty, but where you see the most controversy and like arguing seems to be in like broadheads, and that's like a confidence thing too. Like if you've shot something and it's worked for you, who cares what anybody says? Like if it's doing the job for you and you feel comfortable and confident killing with that, just do what makes you, what you're confident with.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not easy to bow hunt in contrast, especially to gun hunting. Crossbows have reduced that that ability to kill something. I actually really like crossbows because, and I don't want to. I guess I'm going down the rabbit hole here, but the reason I like them is that, and people say crossbow hunters aren't real hunters. There's this romanticism around being a true archer, and at some point, then you got to back your way all the way into going to stab something in the neck with a knife. Like, where are we going to draw these lines here? But that said, like, if you're hunting a crossbow, it was initially because you had an injury, like your shoulder hurts. I injured my shoulder last summer for the first time ever, into a capacity where I couldn't do a damn thing. I couldn't lift up a 5-pound weight. It was terrible. I don't even think it's fixed or healed. I think it's still, if I go and exacerbate it, it'll probably like re-injure itself or something. So I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to get a crossbow. Like, I don't know if I can pull a bow back. I was like heartbroken about it. But then I thought, older demographic has crossbows, and then people that are getting into hunting that don't have the time to go shoot as much, I don't see the problem with that. Some might say, well, then you're not a real hunter if you're not dedicating the time, or that. I don't know. I don't know what we want to call a real hunter, if we want to ever define that term. But they're so lethal because they're so fast that if you make it an argument about ethics, it'd be hard to argue that it's less ethical than a compound or than a recurve. Like, you're gonna have a lethal kill most often with a crossbow, in contrast to a compound or a trad bow. And that being said, what was the other thing I was gonna say? I think I lost my stupid train of thought. But I think then the other argument becomes, well, but now they're killing more deer that maybe I would have had a shot at, and now it's an unfair playing field for the rest of us.
The other argument that I hear with crossbows a lot too is because they're faster, more efficient, that people take shots that they typically shouldn't take in archery hunting, because
that may be a problem, right?
The mentality is, it's we're shooting 400 feet per second here, no problem. But that's an individual problem, right? Like, that's an individual problem of like whoever's pulling the trigger. That's an issue for them. It's not an issue that's, I would say, an umbrella issue over the whole thing, because not everybody's making that choice. And I think that's on each person to make sure that they're doing what's best for the animal.
With compound bows, I mean, you got the campaigns of the world popping drones up at 100 yards, and like, I'm all for the further you can shoot, the more accurate you'll likely be within a shorter range. I set my rifle in at 200, 300 yards. There's a range that'll go 300, but I'm only shooting 100. But like, that 100 should be right on its mark. I agree. But again, if I had a crossbow, I don't know that I would then suddenly be like, ooh, 70 yards, I'm going to kill that thing. Like, I might be tempted. So I might be tempted. I'm not, like, if I'm putting myself into that situation in the mental space of my mind right now, I'm thinking, interesting. I wonder if I would. But it's a bolt. It's not an arrow. It's a little bit different. It's a wholly different thing. I don't think I would, though. I still think I would need to be a lot closer. You could really F up a shot at 70 yards. It's like the whole concept of, like, you change an airplane 2 degrees from New York to California, you're going to end up in Alaska. Like, the farther out that shot gets, the larger the margin of error becomes. So, I don't know. Jay says people get overconfident with crossbows. It needs ethical people behind them. It's all about how much you practice and what's your personal proficiency. There's a lot of P's.
Literal alliteration for you.
Yeah. To your point, Derek, and to Jay's, it's like personal preference. Do what you're confident, comfortable with. If you think you can kill and you've shot at that range for a long time, like, more power to you. Here in Wisconsin, and the things that will impede your shot if you don't have shooting lanes on public land, which often on public land you don't. It's not like private land where you can cut this beautiful shooting lane and the buck's gonna read the script and you get it done. It's like, there's way more variables and sticks in your way and shit like that you just don't see coming.
And that's where most of the problems come from, right? Like, Eric, I've seen some of the spots you hunt. I've seen video from where you hunt. Like, most of the areas that we're hunting, a 30-yard shot is a poke. Like, wow, I can't believe I've got a 30-yard lane to shoot. Like, but in low light, those sticks become a little bit harder to see, and all of a sudden that long range shot gets to be a lot riskier. Which I guess in the long run is why guys like Greg and we reach out to Greg so, like, we can tune up and try to get everything as perfect as possible, so that if we do have that opportunity, it's possible. But man, realistically, I haven't taken many shots over 24 yards in my whole bow hunting career. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's good. I think 34 or 35 somewhere there has been my. I have shot at that range, and that's as far as I will shoot. And having shot at that range, I won't shoot further than that range. Like I won't confidently shoot past that at a living animal. Yeah, maybe it's a human that did something wrong to my family. I might take a further shot. That's a different story. Want to get weird with it. Jeff Genke said, "Whoever complains about hunting with a crossbow should never hunt with a firearm." Yeah, I mean, so Raven did I wouldn't call it a stunt, but they did a PR thing at when they launched their crossbow a number of years ago. They took it to SHOT Show, and they were the only crossbow on the entire at range day on the firearm range, and it was putting groupings together just as good as a firearm was next to a rifle. And so their slogan at the time was "Meet your next rifle." And there's a lot of controversy around that slogan, but it was kind of like saying these things are pretty damn accurate, right next to a firearm. So, to Jeff's point, I think that's relevant. I had another point there I was going to make with setting up the bow. Getting your strings changed out, that's important. If you're going to bring it to the archery shop, I sold my old bear bow, the Bear Empire. I've been single cam Bear Empire that I've been shooting for a number of years before I got the new one last year. Sold that to Jace, our camera guy, actually. And I was like, you got to put new strings on this thing. I do not recommend shooting it until you go put new strings on it. Please go new strings on it. I don't think I have to worry about that for a while with the new stuff here, but getting the drop away, what's that called? The drop away rest?
Rest?
Yep, getting that on there, all the stuff configured and built out. I'm looking forward to that process. I tried to do it with my kids last year. That wasn't a good idea. I think it was cool for like half a minute, like until they started to get really impatient. The guy at the archery shop that's helped me out, he did something where I gave him, I was like, here's my groupings at this range. So I marked the tape and then he put the tape on, but he put the tape on wrong, or like it wasn't perfectly lined up with the word. He's like, oh, I'm off. So I had to redo it all again. So if I didn't have to redo it all, it would have been a great experience. I was right where I needed to be, but then he had to redo it, and then that was like past the threshold of what my kids could tolerate for their level of patience as children.
Yeah, because when we went to the Deer Veins Anthony Heller shoot, I think your bow was just a couple yards off.
Yeah, I had to make a small.
Once you compensated for it, you were like nailing it, but you could tell it was just like
my first shot. Everybody, I lost an arrow. Like, damn it, I haven't even started yet, and I've lost an arrow. Like, come on. I was like,
so did you?
Just for show, that was an Okayest hunter move. Yeah, I was just making sure you guys know what you're. I'm just hustling here, like white men can't jump.
Yeah, look how bad I am. And then 10 ringer.
Yeah. What?
Did you and Greg get your arrows ordered already? Do you have them?
I have my arrows. I have arrows. I need to shoot them with the bow. So I'll be spending some time at the local archery shop or Greg's basement fairly soon here. So
I just had to order a dozen new arrows. I'm going on that trip to Texas to do some hog hunting.
Right.
And I've got like a hodgepodge of arrows right now. I got a couple left over from my Vector ones. I got a bunch of old ones. I was like, I really need to order some new ones and get these set up. So right now they're bear shaft. So Greg was like, you got to get in my basement. Let's shoot some bear shafts and get them flying good. And then I'm a lefty, so we'll fletch them up. I don't even know exactly which direction helical you're supposed to fletch for a lefty. If it's the opposite of righty, or if it depends on your bow and how they come off the string. But I got to get that sorted out. And then I think I got the weight and everything figured out. I got to get my half out.
What do you think you're going to end up with for your weight and grains for the arrows?
I'm not totally positive what the total weight will be yet with fletchings and everything like that, but I got what I ended up going with was I used to shoot Easton Axis arrows, and I really liked them. Then I switched over to Vector. I loved those, but now Vector being out of the picture, I went back to Easton Axis long range 4mm, which is a very skinny arrow.
Which is Vector. They were a thick walled micro.
Yeah.
Diameter.
Yep. So the thick wall made them super durable. The smaller diameter makes them great for penetrating. Like they're almost a nightmare to shoot at like block targets because the suckers go right through them because they're so skinny. But they're great for penetration. And what I used to hate about the micro diameter, because I had an Easton arrow called a carbon injection. It was a real small one, might have been 4 millimeters. But you used to have to get these different inserts with smaller threads on the broadhead. They were called deep six inserts because they were narrower. So you had to buy special broadheads. And then like the throat of the broadhead that screwed in was real narrow, so it fit. Well, those broke all the time because it was thinner. You know, it's like a really important connection point between your arrow, the insert, and your broadhead. Those things just weren't that durable. Like that's where you want the power. So now they've got a new system. Easton has like an outsert. So I'm going to be getting like a steel outsert. It's 95 grains, similar to what we were shooting with Vector. That'll go on the end, and then you can shoot a normal threaded broadhead, which I think is way better than what we used to do. So yeah, we'll be using Greg's paper tuner. Probably bare shaft testing them first, seeing how they fly, seeing what the spin is, and then we'll definitely be paper testing. So
yeah, I was just gonna say I'm genuinely excited to throw some arrows through that paper tuner that Greg's got, and thanks for commenting. If you guys had an opportunity to call in, feel free. The phone lines are open. The number is 262-757-4122. We got a little bit of time here still, but all that stuff is a process, man. Like in such a way where like if you start shooting your rifle and to get groupings and you're trying to get everything kind of sighted in and BZO'd or zeroed out, whatever you want to call it, at some point your shoulder starts to take a toll and the barrel heats up and like you can only shoot so many rounds before you start to like fatigue out on getting accurate. And with your bow and arrow setup at some point too, like yeah, eventually you start to get a little sore from holding shit back. You don't have to worry about your barrel getting hot, but you almost got to take a little bit of like an intermission to come back at it to make sure it's not. What I love most about spending time practicing and tuning things up is it removes the excuse of like my equipment failed me. You can then say it was my fault, and then you know it was a human error. Like get your fundamentals down, get your anchor point down, get your comfortable in your process and your tuning for like getting those mechanics right. And then if your equipment's all dialed in, like you know if you miss, it wasn't your equipment. Hopefully.
well, yeah, that's that confidence piece. And Greg just commented in, but if you go through the Tubbs protocol on, on knock tuning bare shaft arrows, like at the end of the day, if you go through Greg's process of doing it, you got all the confidence in the world because like you've done everything in your power to make sure these things are flying like frickin' darts. So then, I mean, that's what you need, right? Yeah, Greg, you can laugh. You're meticulous, brother, and I appreciate it. That's why I'm taking you up on the offer to help me out with my new arrow.
It is nice. No, we do have a caller. You're live on the show. Who do we got with us?
Yeah, Matt, the paper tuner guy.
There we go.
Hey,
Welcome.
how's it going, Matt?
Oh, another exciting evening. I kept looking on Instagram for you guys and it never showed up. And I'm like, I better check YouTube. And there you were.
Oh, I think we're live on Instagram, but maybe I didn't do it right. There's a good chance I didn't. Instagram's tricky. We got to do a couple extra steps to get live there, but I'm willing to bet that you have some Greg Tubbs type tendencies. Damn it, another tongue twister. Of how to set stuff up. How did you come across? So, just real quick, explain to folks. We won't make this a whole episode, but explain folks what paper tuner is and how it works, and the advantage of doing something like that with your product, and just in general, whether you have your product or not.
All right. Yeah, obviously, paper tuning is, I would say, the most important and simple step you can do because the paper doesn't lie. So you shoot through the paper, and then the paper tells you what's going on with your arrow. And once you know what's going on with your arrow, you can adjust your bow, and obviously you can get as fine-tuned and detailed as you want to go down that rabbit hole, but at least get it going straight within a few feet from your bow.
And for those that don't know, paper tuning, like if you're setting an arrow with your paper, think of your arrow fishtailing. And if it's fishtailing through paper, you're going to get a different. The goal is you want to have like a bullet hole going through the paper, not something that's a tear or a rip that would indicate your bow is kicking out on it or something like that. Like those are ways to fine tune your FOC and all of those other things coming out of your arrow that it's going or coming out of your bow straight and true. And
Yeah.
that's what your product helps identify. And there's a process in getting that. And the way your product works, it makes it really easy to keep sending arrows through that paper. Otherwise, it's kind of a pain to set that kind of stuff up.
Yeah. Definitely. You don't think about how something as simple as shooting through paper can be so beneficial. Because I definitely have a tendency to put a little hand torque into it, and it's nice to just go into the garage, shoot a couple, see if you're shooting straight again, and then head out. All my targets are outside in the backyard, so you start missing or start having some weird things happening. It's pretty easy to walk in, shoot a couple through papers, see how you're doing, and go from there. Or like you guys, I think Derek was talking about changing his arrows up. One of you guys were earlier today. That's every time you change something on your arrow, something's going to change on your bow, and your arrow flight's going to be affected. So I don't know if you drink the Kool-Aid of the heavy arrows, the adult arrows, or if you're out in Vegas right now shooting completely different setups, from tack to Vegas to hunting to whatever else you're doing.
No, I think it's a cool, effective way to tune your setup.
And I think it looks good down in Greg's basement too.
Yeah. Well, if you're Greg and you drop tune your bow every so frequently.
If you drop tune, you always want to follow up with a paper tune. But Matt, I do have a question for you.
Never had good luck with the drop tuning.
I did have a question for you since Greg, Eric, and myself. I mean, anytime you get a new bow, right? New bow, that string tends to stretch out. It's super tight when you get it, right? So after you've sent hundreds of arrows down range, and maybe that string loosens up a little bit, stretches out a little bit, do you notice any difference, or have you heard of differences in how a bow shoots, the tuning, how the paper tuning reacts as that maybe string lengthens out from use? You know, from like you got the bow brand new, fresh out of the box, and then 500 shots later, is there anything a guy should do to tune up the bow? Have you noticed anything through paper? Does that change much as the string kind of stretches out or finds its normal stretch?
Oh yeah, obviously if your string is stretching, your timing is also slowly getting out of time. So as that starts stretching, you'll start seeing that maybe your tears are a little bit off. So unfortunately, I don't have a press at home. That's where you do need a bow shop or a friend that's got one where you can put it back on there and see if your timing is still good.
That's good advice. Yeah, I think it's a matter of time before we buy Greg a bow press, because I think we're just going to make him our bow shop. And it'll be like it'll be packaged as, this is a gift for you, Greg, but one that we'll take advantage of for many years to come collectively.
It's like when you get your wife something that you want to use.
Yeah, honey, this is really, it's for you.
This is definitely for you to help me. Thanks, Greg. Thanks in advance, Greg.
No, it's cool. Matt, thanks for calling in. We appreciate the call. It's good to hear from you. It sounds like you got my note on IG, so appreciate it. And can you tell folks real quick as you called in where they can find your products and how to see what you got to offer there?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously the name of the device is papertuner.com, so that makes it pretty easy. So if you're in the market for a tuner, either you're doing your own thing or if you got a small bow shop in your house, it's kind of the perfect setup, because the whole motto is I don't build things from the ground up, I build them from the ceiling down, and that's why it's called the hang and shoot paper tuner, so it uses up no floor space. So check it out, and if you say you heard me on the Okayest podcast, send me a message on Instagram and I'll shoot you over a discount code.
Oh, there you go. Fun. Look at that.
Nice. That's great, Matt. Thank you.
Appreciate taking care of our listeners.
No problem. Then when Greg gets that press, let me know, so I'll send my bow over there too.
Sounds good. We'll make sure we tell everybody.
We can do a little powwow. We'll all get tuned up.
Yeah, we'll get tuned up. We'll bring some beers and to get tuned up in more than one way. Appreciate the call, man. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
It's always fun getting callers. Josh Osborne. No, now I'm just starting to get real weird with my words. Shooting some 3D shoots with your hunting setup is a good way to get the nerves going, similar to hunting if you can shoot with a complete stranger. Yeah, actually when we did the 3D archery playground at Anthony Heller's deer vein shoot last summer, and we did the knockout round where you just kept going up against other people to knock out.
Head to head. Yep.
That got the nerves going because all eyes are on you, and it was different than just shooting the course with your pals. Like, I don't really care if you guys saw if I missed or not, but suddenly I was like, the factor of competition, the factor of all the eyeballs. I was like, shit, feeling a little, my heart's pumping a little bit here. This is a little bit more simulating how I'd feel in the deer stand. Like, shit. It was funny because I didn't anticipate feeling nervous at all.
It's crazy how that little bit of mind games can really get the adrenaline going. I used to shoot a winter league with some buddies. I'm at a little tiny archery shop in northeastern Wisconsin called Lena Swamp Archery. Really great shop, really nice guys there. And we used to shoot a winter league. And it's like a real narrow range, went out to like 33 yards. So you get like, they had guys packed. You're like back to back. And then if you're a left-hander, you're like back to front. It's real awkward. But like you're all packed in on the line.
Yeah. Oh
and I tell you what, I used to punch the trigger a lot because if you weren't the first 10 guys to shoot, like if you drew back or like you were taking your time looking and all of a sudden everyone had shot, all eyes went to you. It was like a whole new mind game of like, holy shit, everyone's looking at me. I got to get this arrow off. They're all waiting. And instantly in your head, you're like panicking, which is exactly what happens to me when I'm like trying to force it on a buck. Like, oh my God, got to make it happen. Got to make it happen. It's the same freaking scenario. And that's usually when you fuck it all up.
Well, yeah, those fundamental things too. Like, I think Paper Tuner had just mentioned the torque, how you hold the bow. Like, yeah, there's just so many damn components, and it's like, what went wrong? Well, I don't freaking know. Was it my equipment? Was it me? Was I holding it? Was it my anchor? did I punch a trigger? Did I flinch? Like, what? Like, who knows? There's just so many things. But I've missed deer. I've clean missed 2 deer. Yeah, I've clean missed 2 bucks. Good for me for getting in front of them, but damn it. I couldn't tell you what happened because I feel confident. I feel comfortable. I've shot my shit. I know what's going on. And then boom, clean miss over the back. Like, what the shit am I doing? What the heck did I do wrong in that scenario? Who knows? I don't know. I wish I did because then I would course correct appropriately. But the ones I connected on, I did everything right. So like, you can either do things wrong or either do things right. And hopefully it's more of the latter than the former. Like, do more right things than wrong things. Practice will help with that. But when I'm really confident like that, then I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm so confident. I don't know what could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
Who knows? But well, good topic. Thanks for hopping on virtually here tonight, Derek. Appreciate it. Sorry you're sick there, Gregor. Feel better, buddy. And with that, I think we'll end the live broadcast. And everyone that tuned in, enjoy the rest of your week. Go shoot your bow and stuff. Look at that. The drink just appeared. Cheers. Oh, fun. All right, guys, you have a good one over there. I see where this is going.
All right, I think that's our cue.
I see ya.